So, to kind of set the stage, what are we talking about?
So, commercial censorship is any sort of part of the larger capitalistic system that affects the book industry, where by some weird mechanism, usually under the auspices of like, well, this is just good business, censorship is occurring and books are being either taken off of shelves or from digital storefronts. So, an example of this that has affected me personally in the past year or so is I've been contacted by bookstore employees or journalists who are covering local bookstores who have been the target of harassment from individuals who don't think they should carry certain books, and books like mine will be removed from the shelves to appease those people who are complaining. And there's not a whole lot I can do about that. It's not like I can go on social media and put this individual bookstore on blast because, this is a free country. Ostensibly, a small business owner or a bookstore manager can make decisions on what they carry and what they don't carry. And even if their decisions are based in transphobia or homophobia, there's not a whole lot I can do to, quote unquote, prove that. And even if I did, like, what court of law would I go to? What petition would be made? And, there's limits to, even as a traditionally published author, like I am, there's limits to what my publisher can do in this situation. They're hoping to sell many more titles than just mine to stores like this. So they're not going to burn that bridge or ruin that business relationship by questioning their decision to pull titles like mine. So it's a really frustrating situation where I'm being contacted by people who are on the ground or in the trenches and saying like, "Hey, this is happening and I know it's happening for these reasons." And I'm just kind of sitting there going, "Cool, that feels terrible and there's nothing I can do about it." you know. So that's one, I think, very obvious example of commercial censorship. And the one that I think I wanted to kind of focus on in our talk today was more of the digital space that has the potential, I think, to really affect more queer authors and more readers of queer romance and queer literature. Just because simply like payment processors, banks that are behind payment processors like PayPal, MasterCard, Visa have been targeting certain digital like shops that sell content made by indie creators. A lot of the focus has been on video games, but also, websites like itch.io also carry ebooks, and a lot of queer and trans indie authors rely on these places to reach new audiences, to, curate an environment where their work has a chance of being recognized and selling. And if payment processors refuse to honor those transactions, then, these marketplaces just sort of shrug their shoulders and say, well, we have no choice. We have to not allow this type of content because these credit card companies are telling us so. And this is all under the auspice of cracking down on, quote unquote pornography. But as we've seen time and time again in this country, whether or not a piece of media or a piece of art is pornographic is kind of besides the point. Whether it is or not, a lot of queer creators are going to be, swept up in the bans of that content just because of, rampant homophobia and transphobia that wants to label all of our art as pornographic.
Right, like, because well, first of all, there's this, like, conflation that we see happening with, like, the children's book discussions where the presence of a queer identity is being labeled as pornographic, which is conflating someone's identity with sex acts, which is, like, not the same thing.
Yeah, and it says a lot more about the people who complain about this stuff, where their mind goes when they're told like, "Oh, this is my friend who's gay." Well, now I'm just imagine like, okay, like
Right.
that's a you problem, really. But yeah, there is a problem, and we see this in the library bans as well, of conflating, like you said, any book that mentions a topic that is difficult or needs to be handled sensitively, that can just be, broadly labeled as pornographic by people who are uncomfortable about having those topics in books. And I just want to say super quickly, like, I am a friend of pornographers and
Sure.
erotica producers. I think that, there is artistic merit to all of our different kinds of art. I think that it's important in this fight to stand shoulder to shoulder with these folks who are producing pornography. And the fact that we're getting lumped in with them isn't causing me to say like, oh, no, 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 I'm like I'm different and legal, and therefore I should be let off the hook, and you go after them instead. I think this is more a my stance is more of a function of, oh, I see what's happening, and it's very easy to lie to the average person and say, well, there's pornography on your children's school bookshelves. Don't you think that that's wrong? And, a person who knows nothing about the actual facts might say, like, well, yeah, of course that's wrong. I don't want that to happen. Yeah, I'll sign your petition. Yeah, I'll vote for you. And so I know that the slippery slope is to demonize, any type of erotic expression, which is, it's gonna come for romance too. There is no safe echelon that a romance author can reach. There is no cleanliness or godliness that their love story can attain that will make these people happy, because it's not actually about, as we know, keeping children safe from products that are not meant for their consumption. It's about terrorizing queer creators. It's about making it impossible for those sorts of people to make a living. And it's about making it extremely difficult to access any kind of work that someone doesn't like.